All right, hello and welcome to another video of the MSU Denver video walkthrough of the Elementary Acuplacer Study Guide. In this video, we're going to be talking about distribution and more precisely within distribution, we're talking about the FOIL method. When we're multiplying two groups of things together, instead in the previous basics video, we just kind of multiplied one thing by a group and we just distributed through. We're going to do two groups multiplied by each other. And I'm going to just make up an example real quick, and let's just say it's going to be easy, like x plus 1, and we're going to multiply that by x minus 1. And these got to have variables in it because if even one side didn't have a variable in it, I could condense it down and it would just be regular distribution like we did in the other video. So whether it's like this, and this is what we're going to see in this video, and this is where the FOIL method applies, or even something like x plus 1 times x plus y minus 1, and so you have three terms in that one. It's the same type of thing that we're going to do. You're going to kind of just make sure everything in one side hits everything in the other side, multiplies by everything in the other side. But in particular, when we're doing just two terms in each group, the FOIL method, and it's again, like I said, it's the same method. It's just what it stands for here is first, and so first being the first two terms of each, the first term of each of the groups outside, and so if we look at the x and the 1 here, they're both on the outside. Inside, so the two inside terms, and then last being just the second term of the first group and the second term of the second group. And so let me just jot that down. FOIL, first, outside, inside, and that's supposed to be an L last. And that's it. I mean, it's that easy, right? We talked about, well, if we're multiplying variables together and what happens. We talked about all that in different videos. So if you watched the other videos or maybe skip those because you're all comfortable with it, you should be comfortable with now foiling stuff. That's it. And so we're going to jump right into the practice problems, the example problems. There's 10 of them. I'm going to go ahead and say I'll do the odd ones. I'll let you do the even ones. And then once we get down to 8, 9, 10, there's a little bit, kind of understanding what that means. But really 1 through 7, it's just what I did right there. That's it, right? So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and get started, right, with number 1. And they do get harder as you go along, but number 1, it's probably going to be pretty easy. Yeah, so it's going to be x plus 3. X plus 2, and again, this is pretty easy. We'll go through this, but if there's different variables, because maybe you have an x in one group and a y in another group, then it gets a little bit tougher. But really, and we don't even see that. We don't see that here. So, but even if you did see it, it doesn't get hard. It's easy stuff. So let's go. So x times x, because we're doing that first, and I'll do this on the first example. I'm doing that first. That's x squared. And then my last is x times 2, so that's just plus 2x. 3 times x, and that would be the inside here. So 3 times x, that's plus 3x. And then 3 times 2, that's just the last, and that's just 6. And then, of course, you want to simplify, so this becomes x squared plus 2x plus 3x is 5x plus 6. That's it. That's all we're doing. That's number 1. All right, so moving on to number 2. We have x plus 5 times x minus 1. And so if we distribute like we just did, first we're going to have x times x, that's x squared. Outside, x times negative 1, and this is a little bit tricky, but negative 1 times x, that's just negative x, okay. 5 times x for the inside, that's 5x plus 5x. And then 5 times a negative 1, that's negative 5. And again, we've got to simplify. So I have x squared. There's no other x squareds. I have a negative x and plus 5x. So that combines to be plus 4x minus 5. That's it. We're done. Oh, I just did number 2. I'm supposed to do the odd ones. Okay, well, I'll do odd ones from now on. Huh. All right, so number 3. Let's see here. It does not pay attention to directions well. It's a good little resume skill. All right, number 3 says t minus 8 I don't work well with others either. That's not true. Okay. Times t minus 4. All right, and then again, we're just distributing. So t times t is t squared. And it's the same thing, whether you have x's and y's or t's or w's or whatever you have. You'll see a lot of different variables going through your math college career, even if you just take college algebra. T squared, t times negative 4, that's negative 4t. Negative 8 times t is negative 8t, and hopefully you're following along. I just did the inside. And then negative 8 times negative 4, so that's a plus 32. And then I'm going to simplify. You always have to simplify. So it's t squared minus 4t minus 8t, and so that combines to a minus 12t plus 32. All right, I'm going to skip number 4 now because I'm paying attention. Let you do that one, and I'll go on to number 5. And number 5 says, in parentheses, w minus 5 times 3w. Ooh, getting creative now. We got 3w plus 9. All right, so what's w times 3w? Well, that's easy enough because this is, again, you just talk about a 1, right? And we've been doing 1 times 1, so we just leave it as a 1. But now we have 1 times 3. Well, that's just 3. So 3, and then w times w is w squared. So that first term is 3w squared. W times 9 is plus 9w. Negative 5 times 3w is negative 15w. And then negative 5 plus 9, negative 5 plus 9 is plus 4. I simplify that to 3w squared. Plus 9w minus 15w, that's a minus 6w plus 4. And that was pretty easy. In the next video, we're going to be going over factoring these, so kind of going backwards from this. And as I talked about in the previous video, the word problems, you want this first coefficient of the variable, whatever the variable is, squared. You want that to be 1, ideally, right? And so if you can divide through by whatever number the coefficient is, if it's already 1, well, great. If it's 3, I want to divide through by 3. But over here, I'll have a 4, and 4 doesn't divide by 3, so I can't, right? Because I want to keep whole numbers. And so it's a little bit trickier to kind of factor when it's not a 1 and you can't divide to make it a 1. But it's still not terrible. And, you know, like I said, that's the next video. We'll go through that. But distributing forward, it's really easy stuff, right? It's just basically multiplication. I mean, if you've watched the other videos, the previous videos, and you've gotten those okay, then this should be, you know, a cakewalk for you. All right, so because I'm paying attention, like I said, I'm going to skip number 6 and do number 7. Number 7 says 4y, okay, now we're getting really crazy, minus 2 times 5y plus 6. Again, distributing this following method, super easy. It's going to be easy. Once I get the answer, if I wanted to factor that back to this, you know, it's not going to be, I wouldn't say it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be doable, and we'll see how to do it in the next video. But distributing, foiling, it's still super easy, right? I deal with the numbers first. So 4 times 5, that's just 20, right? Y times y is y squared, so 20y squared. And then 4y times that 6 is plus 24y. And then negative 2 times 5y, so that's negative 10y. And then negative 2 times 6 is minus 12. And then you always want to simplify. So I have 20y squared. That's easy enough. And then I have plus 24y minus 10y. So I have plus 14y. And then minus 12. And that's the answer. All right. Skipping number 8. And if you want to watch number 9 first before you try to do number 8, if you're comfortable with number 8, that's okay. But number 9, it doesn't look like the other problems, right? Instead, it looks like this. It's in parentheses t minus 3, and then we're squaring that. And so here's something people try to do, and you cannot do this. So I'm going to write it over here, and I'm going to write, you know, I'll write later in big bold letters, do not do this. But if I have this, I can't just say, oh, I'm going to distribute that squared here, and I'm going to distribute that squared here, and that equals t squared, and then, whether you would say minus 3 squared, so minus 9, or you'd say, oh, negative 3 squared, it doesn't matter because it doesn't work. So minus 9, you know, this is not okay. This is not good. You cannot do this, right? Instead, you have to say, because when I'm talking about squaring, let's go real back to basics, right? Like the second video or third, I don't know, whatever video early on. If I said something like 5 squared, right? Well, what that's actually telling us is whatever's in this parentheses times itself this many times, right? So this would be 5 times 5, and that's 25, and we all know that 5 squared is 25. But if I go back to the problem that I have over here, what I can write this out as is t minus 3 times itself, so t minus 3, this many times, so 2 times, and I have it twice, and that's it, right? And then once I get it to look like this, well, now it looks like one of the previous problems that we did, right? And it's really not that hard. So if we FOIL this that we have now, we have t squared, right? T times t squared minus 3t minus 3t, and so the first minus 3t, that's the first, and then outside, right? I did that, so that's the first minus 3t, and then inside it's gonna be the same thing as the minus 3t, and then minus 3 times minus 3 is plus 9, and so what our answer ends up being after I simplify is t squared, and then minus 3t, that's minus 6t plus 9, right? And notice that this is absolutely not t squared minus 9 or even t squared plus 9. I don't know, whatever you want to do. It's not that, right? You don't have this middle term in here. So it's important that you cannot you cannot just distribute this exponent if you have a plus or minus or something separating your terms. If you have like a t times a 3 or a t divided by something, you can distribute that squaring in there. And in fact, that's what you want to do. But if you can't, or if there's a plus or a minus something separating it in there, you need to kind of work it out like we did over here on the left, expand it. And so our final answer would be simply t squared minus 6t plus 9. That's all the practice problems, the exam problems in this section. I encourage you to do the even ones. It's a short video, not too hard, especially if you've been following along in the other videos. I mean, we've done stuff a lot harder than this, so hopefully that all makes sense to you, and I encourage you to try the even problems, and then we'll go into basically undoing this stuff, factoring it in the next video. I will see you there.